My name is Malcolm Boyd, and this book is my 32nd and my newest, and it's called Wisdom for the Aging, Practical Advice on How to Live the Best Years of Your Life Right Now. This book I wrote because I was growing older. And that's a funny thing too, because you don't necessarily want to grow older and you're not sure how to grow older. That's a little complicated. But I wrote a column for the ARP magazine. They have 34 million readers, and so you kind of got a huge number of people. And they wrote me questions, and my column was to answer them. And we did this for a decade. And they taught me so much by their questions. There are a couple that resonate with me very much. One was from a 12-year-old girl, and she was writing me that her grandmother didn't understand her. And I'm very fond of that letter. There's another letter from a woman whose husband had died a few years ago, and she's in a kind of mourning and hasn't been able to do very much about that, and cries in her pillow a lot. Well, I told the 12-year-old girl that to kind of hug her grandma and kind of, get into a little conversation and dialogue with grandma here. And I think I told the woman who's mourning that mourning has a very important place, but then there is a moment when it must end. And the way to connect with life again is to connect with certain people who need you. I get letters from an older woman or man whose son or daughter won't communicate with them, hasn't written, won't telephone, and doesn't want to come home for Thanksgiving or Christmas or anything else for that matter. And then they write me about that. And they're hurt and they don't know what to do about it. But then often they don't realize that maybe some of that goes back to childhood and to a lot of past experience, and maybe the question of control, and that maybe the younger person felt that there was a kind of attempt to control, and maybe the older person felt they were innocent and not guilty, but maybe they still made a mistake. So in other words, take all this stuff out of the box and look at it. There were certain themes that just kind of emerged from the letters. One was relationship, because everybody's in one of one kind or another, like the marriage that broke up, the marriage that lasted, the marriage that was longed for, the marriage with a burial sign on it, whatever. So relationship was a theme. Memory, and that's huge in a book like this, because everyone has memories. Health, and that's an enormous issue. Everybody has health issues. Changes was a major theme. The changes that happened in our lives and that we have no control over. And then wisdom. Well, people right now in their 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, are dealing with an awful lot of hopelessness. I think the question of keep on trucking is essential here. In other words, what enables us to get out of bed in the morning, have some motivation, and go on living. Actually, I think this is as important for someone 18 and 29 as for someone 65 or 81. This is now a universal question. But my advice is, life is this gift. I mean, this incredible gift. And I'm quite aware of it, and I happen to be very thankful for it. In the past, we would point to youth and middle age and aging, and that's absurd now, because we're all going through all the processes together. When you come to aging, I think there are a couple of things that are very important for everyone to be aware of. One is, memory is terribly important. But don't do it with bitterness. Don't hate everybody. Don't refuse to forgive anybody, because then you're just destroying yourself. The other is, don't be afraid of the future. Open that door, open that window, walk out into the sunlight. You've got to live moment by moment, day by day, and there's no way anybody, the Queen of England or anybody in the world with all the money, they can't do anything about buying their way out of this one. It's living in the moment. But I'm not saying living in the moment in some shallow sense. I'm saying living in the moment with the memory and the history that teaches you, and with the future that gives you hope, that draws you forward. This is terribly important. I'm very fond of this book because it's all of the truth, to the best of my ability. And it's written from the standpoint of actually being older, which took me a while to recognize and accept and enjoy. So it's a dialogue between me and the reader, and I'm just sharing my experiences with aging, but particularly the ones that came across in all those letters I got for writing a column, and the questions are authentic. And so I have tried to be authentic also in responding to them. Practical advice for living the best years of your life right now. And the best I can do with it right now is to see life as holy, as sacred, to honor relationships, to make any difference I can, but then stop getting the ego in the way and get out of the way. It's really not all that complicated, but you do have to work at it and ask the right questions and accept some of the answers. So this book isn't kind of an ice cream cone. It's calling you to do some work.